Hi everybody. Today we are going to talk about why smoking is really bad for you and why you should consider quitting. Can you imagine intentionally shaving off years of your life and putting your health at risk? Most smokers try their first cigarette in their teens. Many of them have family members who smoke, or they give in to peer pressure just to fit in. Video games, TV, and movies also make smoking look cool and glamorous. The popularity of e-cigarettes among teens has risen dramatically over the past years, mostly because they're widely seen as harmless. However, once addicted to nicotine, smoking almost always continues well into adulthood. According to cancer.org, nicotine causes pleasant feelings and distracts the user from unpleasant feelings. Nicotine works very much like other addicting drugs by flooding the brain's reward circuits with a chemical called dopamine. Over the time, smokers will develop a tolerance which causes the tobacco intake to increase. We've all heard that smoking is bad for you, but the facts that I have gathered will show just how far the negative effects can reach. Smokers should give quitting a serious thought because first, it poses health risks such as cancer and heart disease. Next, secondhand smoke exposure can cause serious health issues as well. And finally, smoking causes pollution to the environment. Smokers have a higher risk at developing cancer and heart disease. The main reason smokers should give quitting a serious thought are the health risks that are associated with every drag on a cigarette. It's still considered the leading cause of preventable early deaths in America, with about 480,000 a year. There are 7,000 chemicals in tobacco, 250 of which are considered harmful, and 69 of them can cause cancer. According to cancer.com, of those premature deaths, about 36% are from cancer, 39% are from heart disease and stroke, and 24% are from lung disease. Cigarette smoke causes damage to the lining of the lung, and over time it can even cause your lung tissue to change. If you have ever seen a smoker's lung compared to a non-smoker's, it's not that surprising that lung cancer is a very real possibility. Smoking can harm just about every organ in your body, including your heart and your blood vessels. Chemicals in cigarette smoke can cause blood vessels to narrow and plaque to build up in your arteries. According to the CDC, coronary heart disease occurs when arteries that carry blood to the heart muscle are narrowed by plaque. Blockage from a clot can lead to a heart attack and sudden death. The lack of blood flow and oxygen to the brain can even cause a stroke. These facts beg the question, is the smoke really worth it? Let's take a look at the potential risks for non-smokers who are exposed to the chemicals of tobacco. Secondhand smoke can be just as harmful as taking the drag on the cigarette yourself. Although the exposure to secondhand smoke has dramatically decreased over the last 30 years, it's still significant enough to raise concern. It still contains the 7,000 chemicals that I've mentioned earlier, with hundreds of them being toxic, and then they are inhaled by non-smoking adults and children. Even brief exposures to secondhand smoke are never risk-free and are concerned for development of health issues. Adults involuntarily put at risk for lung cancer, heart disease, and even stroke. As an adult, you can ask a smoker to please take it elsewhere, but children exposed to secondhand smoke don't have the chance to advocate for their health themselves. According to the American Lung Association, more than 23 million children in the US have been exposed to secondhand smoke. Most exposure is in their own home. The CDC warns that secondhand smoke exposure causes bronchitis and pneumonia in infants and young children. It can also lead to an increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome, frequent asthma attacks, and ear infections. Children should be able to count on the adults to keep them healthy instead of putting them at risk. Cigarettes are not only a hazard to humans, but the environment as well. Cigarette waste is harmful to the environment, leading to land and water pollution. We see them every time we go to the beach, walk across the parking lot, or take our dogs for a walk. Cigarette butts. They seem to be everywhere. Billions of them are smoked in America every year. Therefore, it's not surprising that cigarette butts are the most littered item across America. 65% of smokers litter their cigarette butts, either throwing them on the ground or out of their window. According to truthinitiative.org, 1,030,640 cigarette butts were removed from US beaches in 2016. Cigarette filters are made from plastic, which can only biodegrade under severe circumstances. Even in perfect conditions, a cigarette butt can take up to 9 months to degrade. Cigarette butts can release toxins that pollute the soil and water while putting wildlife at risk. Studies have shown that levels of hydrocarbon in roadside soil are linked to chemicals from cigarette butts. Scientists have also found that compounds of tobacco such as nicotine, pesticide residue, and metal can flow into water ecosystems that are highly toxic to marine life. Truthinitiative.org states that in one laboratory study, the chemicals that leached from a single cigarette butt released enough toxins to kill 50% of saltwater and freshwater fish exposed to it for 96 hours. With that, smoking poses a serious environmental risk. Today, we took a deeper look at why smoking is a health risk for people and the environment. First, we learned about the major health effects smokers face. Next, we found that adults and children exposed to secondhand smoke are just as vulnerable to serious health conditions. And lastly, we discovered the profound effects smoking can have on the environment. Alexander Woolcott said, "Today just might be the best day to start seriously thinking about quitting smoking." Thank you.